to do my best not to try to cut anyone off, but we do have a lot of people here today, so we want to listen to all of you guys' stories. It's very important, so thank you for being here, but let's be respectful of the time we have in our Capitol. So first off, we have Ms. Carla Oakley from Patoka, West Virginia. So she's going to be our first chair chat.
Hi, I'm going to try to speak up as loud as I can. I don't have a really loud volume voice. My name is Carla Oakley, and I'm from Mercer County, and I am actually running for delegate because of so many families that we're talking about these problems, and that's why I do the Stop the Silence. We're never going to fix anything unless we start talking about it. So these are, I've got prepared some issues that I keep hearing over and over again on the ground, and how West Virginia law could be fixed, and hopefully you all will listen to how it should be fixed, because a lot of it's a lot of common sense measures. If it's ever brought to your attention, you never can fix it. So the first thing that we do, these are our children. These are our future of West Virginia. We're always worried about the population, how it's declining, and how our state is going to function. If you have a bunch of traumatized children and separated families, West Virginia is never going to thrive in the long run. And so one of the things I keep hearing over and over again is that children are being removed and parents are being prosecuted for medical neglect, and a pediatrician or a doctor is never consulted on that matter. This has to stop. What can be written is that a pediatrician must sign off on any type of medical neglect, even if it's not medical. A pediatrician is more in tune with the family. They see this on a daily basis. They also understand trauma. They know how to help with trauma-related situations. So they can help with the situation versus just ripping a child away and having them have all these trauma-induced conflicts. We have a lot of conflicts of interest in this state. There is a lot of families who speak of conflicts of interest where CPS workers are taking these children into their own home and they are adopting them, or they are giving them to their immediate families. This one piece of legislation could cut out a lot of what is perceived corruption in this system. To stop conflicts of interest. You can't even date someone if you were a supervisor at a restaurant. You cannot date your subordinate. You should not be able to adopt a child out of the system. West Virginia Care System came into effect with President Obama's Affordable Care Act. It is a mandatory requirement for medical treatment and for the healthcare system. There are flaws in this. It has been in place for roughly about 9 to 10 years now in this state. The way that CPS is now circumventing the system is they're prosecuting people with neglect through administrative level only. They don't file a petition in circuit court, so therefore families are losing their due process rights. They are not eligible for counsel, like you don't have the right to an attorney to represent you. That has to stop. We have to change West Virginia care system a little bit, because that can change your entire life. That can ruin a family, because if you even work for a doctor's office that takes Medicaid, and you're just a receptionist or a janitor, you can lose your job overnight just for that. And there's no proof that even has to be done to be entered into that system. They do not always consider, even though they're supposed to, there is no consideration of housing that is with relatives. So if someone is staying with someone who is a family member, a neighbor, or something like that, it isn't always the case that the person that the child is related to or is familiar with is even considered. I'm hearing a lot about people who are getting their children removed during states of emergency with weather. West Virginia has a lot of flooding. West Virginia has a lot of snow and ice. That cannot become the norm. That started becoming the norm in North Carolina with their flooding, and the governor stepped in and stopped that. You cannot have that happen. And that is happening in this state. No child should be able to be removed under a state of emergency. The administrators should not be able to be filtering in who gets cases in the adoption level or in the other levels. They should be able to be sitting on boards. I'm getting all kinds of information about different ones that sit on boards. It looks a little sketchy, so we need to have oversight over CPS and the DHS now, because it's all split up into their administrators. When these CPS workers omit evidence, exculpatory evidence. They lie under oath. There is no kinds of any consequences for them. These people, if a law enforcement officer, if a judge, anybody acts in any kind of malicious way and withholds evidence where either you or I did, we would face jail time, we would face extreme repercussions. These people have so much immunity, they've gotten so used to it. It is a norm in these cases when you hear this. I'm sure a lot of these families are going to tell you the same thing, that there's a lot of information omitted, there's a lot of lies being told, and there's literally they get promotions instead. They don't get terminated. They don't get any prosecution. And we also have some cases that I have been told about where children are placed into homes with people who have health care problems, and they aren't provided the necessary equipment that the state is by law required to provide through the ADA. So, for example, if you have someone who is vision impaired or hearing impaired, that's not to say those children can't be safe in those environments, but if they're not provided with the equipment that the state is legally required to offer them, then those children are in danger just by being in those environments. So I think that about touches up on everything, our conflicts of interest. One last thing I want to say is there's also when you call into the hotline, it gets filtered into a local office. We need to have independent people looking at these cases, investigating these cases, not someone who is my cousin that's sitting right here beside me. Doesn't need to be investigated that way. So if we can get some of these things changed, then we can help the state of West Virginia. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. Next up, we have Sam Dorsey from Bluefield.
Thank you. I'm a retired magistrate from Mercer County, West Virginia. I was appointed as a senior status magistrate twice now. I quit because I was working with Senator Maynard, and I found case after case after case of lies being given to the judges. It's got to
Yes, it does.
and social workers that are lying because they have immunity. You can't talk to a judge ex parte. So how are you going to tell somebody? West Virginia has great laws. It's in the bench book. Every attorney should be able to go to the bench book if they're dealing with our children and finding out exactly what they're supposed to be doing. DLAG, dangerous lethality assessment guide tells how dangerous a perpetrator of domestic violence is. All you have to do, for Pete's sake, is sign yes or no. Has he or she ever used a weapon? Yes or no? It takes law enforcement, and I think every social worker, every attorney, every judge needs to do this. None of it, they're not doing it. It's the law. It's in the bench book. It would save lives. It would save women's lives. It would save children's lives. Now, ACE, adverse childhood, it's interesting, experiences. Four bad experiences can cause mental health issues. We wonder why we have a mental health problem. It causes people later in life to get strokes, sugar diabetes, all kinds of issues. West Virginia has the answers. Besides, there's no accountability. West Virginia University, behavior support. When you have a child that you have a doctor who has been exposed to drugs in utero, they're going to start having mental health issues. Not one person I've talked to has been referred to West Virginia University. Not one. They got classes. This young lady died in 2011. You can't bring that. She was murdered. She was tortured. I warned them. I've been in domestic violence and child abuse since 1996. I think I have a little experience. I warned them. They did exactly opposite of the law. She died a month later. Then they came after me. I didn't investigate myself for being a gang drug dealer. I don't sell drugs in my school. I found that. Now, there's a case in Mercer County. These pictures aren't part of the case because they're refusing to take the evidence. This is domestic violence. This is a white girl. She looks black. She was beaten. Guess what the kids are with? The man that did that. She was strangled. Next step is murder. Her children. He was abused during a reunification visit. Great-grandma made a mandated report. They took the children out of the safe environment, put them with the man that did this. This little girl, she got this in the middle of the domestic. She was trying to protect her mommy. According to West Virginia law, he shouldn't even have this game. No, I'm sorry, not that. Not that, okay? Because nothing's being done. They lie, they manipulate. They're not even letting the evidence of these pictures in. So I'm not breaking the law. I'm bringing these here. They're not part of the evidence. I was paralegal too. I know who did it. I know how to use research. This is what they've done. One of the attorneys in this case had the gall to say she was the victim's attorney. Then they turned around and they investigated the great-grandmother who doesn't even have a dang driving license. Took the kids out of their home where they were safe. Delay, and then we talked about that. They don't have any consequences. They can lie to court. And then safety is the next thing. According to the law, the safety is you look at DLAG. And if a child been beaten, that is domestic violence. If you put a child in a home with a perpetrator, why are Mercer County #1 in child abuse? In this state.
They don't care.
They don't care. Why are we #2 in domestic violence?
Because they don't
No
care.
consequences. In my court, there were consequences. I had a guy tell me, oh, I won't spend a day in Mercer County for abuse. I said, oh, I told you right to be father. 20,000 cash, I bet you gave him a bill.
There you go.
And he did. So, you know, we're #1, 90% of our cases aren't being handled. That's paperwork. That's not following the law. They're not following the law. They forgot that part.
81%.
So I want consequences. Felonies if you put a child at risk. Felony, not a misdemeanor.
For who?
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have Mr. Joe Mueller from Charleston. Are you ready? You know, I had a judge there. Try to lean.
Speak up.
I had Judge Bailey try to demean me one time. Asked me why I should watch This is why. This is why. We opened it up because guess what? We're being screwed by 111 Court Street. No due process whatsoever, not a drop of due process. We go to the local media, what do? They say, I'm sorry, we can't handle the case. We don't deal with corruption with the CPS and the circuit court judges. Are you kidding me? I'm banned from the courthouse by Judge Bailey himself. No due process, no hearing, nothing. I'm banned because of two reasons. One, I'm licensed media, and I'm a grandfather fighting for my grandparents' rights. No due process whatsoever. I want to congratulate the Senate, by the way. I really do. They voted 100%. What happened? It got shut down. We need accountability. We need to see judges leaving the courtroom in handcuffs.
Yes, we
Stop hiding behind the Constitution. I've had 4 cases thrown out of court due to immunity, absolute immunity. I've been thrown in jail because of accusations, false accusations by a CPS worker. I've had judges tell me my cases are frivolous. Frivolous. I was accused of having sexual contact with my granddaughter during the supervised visitation. I record my visitations. No such thing occurred. I'm suing Williams Place for that. Guess what? Judge Baylor threw it out saying it's a frivolous law case. Guess what? I have to pay to see my granddaughter now. I have to pay. And guess what? Judge Slango ordered my granddaughter with me originally. CPS decided to override their court order. They put my granddaughter back in the house where she was sexually abused. Are you kidding? Yeah, I'm pissed. Our Senate voted to clean this thing up, and the next level said, I don't think so. Let me ask you something. Look around. Is Alex Mayer here? Alex, are you out there? This is a meeting of CPS. Where the hell is Alex? Alex Mayer himself, what he did. We had a CPS worker, Nathan Phillips. He was going to testify in court in favor of my son. Alex Mayer himself, he removed him from the court case, replaced him with another CPS worker who in turn opted for termination for otherwise. Guess what? My son's rights were terminated. No evidence. They told me, how many people in this room were told by CPS and their attorney, you have to admit to something you didn't do or you exactly. It's outrageous.
Yes, it is.
That's why I opened the Block Shots for Protection Service. You senators can do your job. We need the next level to say this is enough. Let me tell you something. Why would people be so afraid? This hallway will be filled around the entire building with people that have been disgruntled and treated horribly by the system. We are being destroyed. We are. This is outrageous what they're doing to us. The corruption, let me tell you something, here's the bottom line, okay? You cannot have a corrupt CPS worker. I'm going to emphasize it. You cannot have a corrupt CPS worker without a corrupt bail and a corrupt judge. You have to have that. It's a team. You're a team. You co-watch. You get on my podcast. You tell your story if you can't tell it here today. We're going to expose these judges. I'm getting time out there. This is just a horrible. I've been putting it for 3 years.
9.
I get to see my granddaughter come 1 day a year. 1 day a year. Every other week for an hour. Just 24 hours a year. That's my baby. You're supposed to be going to haven't seen your children in years. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No due process. None. All 8 circuit court judges tried to recuse themselves. They were turned down by the Supreme Court. They tried to recuse themselves from all my cases. They don't want me in a courthouse. I'm paying as a civilian, I'm paying as a grandfather, and I'm paying as a media owner. I own a media company. I have a license in the state of West Virginia. And Judge Baylor will have me arrested if I step foot in that courtroom. You senators need to take account of that. You need to talk to him. Say, what's going on here?
That's not our court,
We're not for a fair trial. We're looking for people sitting there having run so they can court. I have not been able to say one word. All my cases have been dismissed through the mail system. In every one of my cases, I opted for a jury trial. Not one case has been brought to court and adjudicated. We're getting screwed, and guess what? You know it. So I'm gonna give the Senate applause right now. All right, thank you, sir. Next up, we have Judy Miller, Bluefield.
Woo, Judy. Go, Judy.
My name is Judy Miller, and that was my grandchildren. And I kept them for 15 miles for 8 years, take my everything, and took them out of my house, and I had to them and that's been last all year. They won't let my granddaughter see my being so scared. She is, but she was 60 pounds. And she stayed 90 days, she's done that, she's done her class, she did everything that she's supposed to do, but she's not allowed to see her children, and she's never did anything. He beat him and he beat her. And I had, she brought him to me, she was beat up bad, and left her. And then he put her in the basement for 2 months. And anyway, she didn't get to come and get the kids, and that's what they're saying they did. Won't let her come and see the children, won't let her have food. The hospital already from Western and asked me why she was not allowed to have food. And I said they just refused. And CPS Burger did not come to check on them. Guardian never allowed me to come. And CPS comes to the last 4 visits. And she was always looking for my granddaughter who was in safe house as well. And they knew she was in a safe house. And they wouldn't take none of their evidence. They wouldn't believe anything I said. And because I kept fighting to keep him from getting the kids back, because they were going out so bad the whole time I had them. I had the little girl in a counselor every week. And the little boy was 11 months old when I got him. He was 2 when they took him out of my house and took him. They wouldn't take no for an answer and refused. And then they wouldn't let me stay at the visits. They said the kids were too attached to me. So I had to leave my own home that I paid for and go sit in the parking lot for 2 hours. And they let her see him 3 times at that time, and then they refused to let her see him anymore. We don't see him Christmas, we don't see him Thanksgiving. We pray every day to get feeling that they're not being hurt, so they like to work with us. But I do appreciate all y'all coming out today, and I appreciate you, Liz. But I have never prayed for anything so hard to help us get my children out of that. His psychiatric evaluation said he was not allowed to be alone because he was narcissistic. And he punished the kids all the time before he got back in control of the kids. They come home and belt whipped them on their butts when they were 5 years old and almost 2 years old. And he came home throwing them dog food. He had a concussion within 8 days before they gave it to him. He come home with a concussion, and 3 days later they let him see him again, and he come home with his whole butt bruised and busted and bleeding at the bottom on that picture. And then on the last year, he come home with the whole back of the ears, the whole front of his face, black bullet. And then they went to court, and they told me in court, no, he didn't have a concussion, even though I took him all medical and everything. And they said I was going to protect him. And they were giving him back, giving the kids back to him. And my lawyer asked, so what about all the other money? And one on his cheek, and he said, that's from the concussion. He just said that he didn't have a concussion, but I had to pay for it. And I don't know how people want to live with their kids be took like that without. My granddaughter has 3 years after that. She can't see him at all. And I thank everybody. And I could take some, but I won't let him have it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Larry Britt from Webster County. Senator Rosenberg, try to get this microphone.
Hello?
Like he said, my name's Larry. I've been in an active CPS case since May. And I have a 10-year-old son who has mental health issues. And I was trying to get him help because he was running away while it was called, EMS was called. And he kept doing it. And he kicked one cop in the testicles, kicked another cop in the shin, spit in the face of the nursing staff at the hospital. And I was trying to get him help, and I went and talked to the prosecuting attorney in our county and said, is there any way I can find a JD or file a JS petition against him, get the help that he needs? And she told me, no, let me talk to CPS in our county first to see if there's something we can do before we go to those drastic measures. She called me 2 days later, told me the head of CPS in our county said that there was nothing they could do because I was the primary custodian of my child, they could not help him. 3 days later, they removed my children from home. They couldn't help me, but they could take them and get assistance, through the state. They sent my son to a hospital in Pennsylvania, and now my son is diabetic because of that. And they split my children up all over the state, wouldn't give us help, trying to get adjudication on this. They keep pushing it back further and further and further. And it's been going on since May. Every single time we have a court hearing, they're like, we got to continue this. There's not enough evidence. The prosecution don't have enough witnesses. And the witnesses that they did bring to court in the 20 minutes that we did have, they're like, oh, well, these witnesses ain't good enough because they don't have documentation and this and that. So let's just push it back further and try to get something on you all. Let's try to get, something else brought up and everything else. And then my son, in a therapy session at the hospital, said that he was sorry, he lied about everything. Then nothing ever happened to him. Nobody ever whipped his butt. And when they did whip his butt, it didn't hurt. There was no marks. He lied about everything because his sister was in a hospital, Highland, for help for her mental behaviors, and she made it sound like so much fun. He figured he would lie about things, and he could go there and he could have all this fun. And then he found out it wasn't so much fun being in there, so he decided, I lied about everything. And they're like, well, oh well, you gotta stay here until we get adjudication here. And nothing's being done. They keep pushing it further back. The providers that we have in the case, some of the CPS workers, because they've changed CPS workers 3 times already. And every one of them don't understand why there's even a case there, but they keep pushing it back. And I not only want justice for other parents out there, the children need something better.
They should.
I'd like to thank all y'all for just listening to what I have to say.
Thank you, man. Thank you, sir. Also from Webster County, we have Anna Wright.
Good afternoon. My name is Roxanne Wright, and I'm from Webster County. I'm here because a couple of CPS workers in Webster County will actually push their way through your door, and a few of them had video of it, of them pushing their way through, but they told them that if they brought it into light, then they would take their kids within an hour. And I don't think that's right. I think they have to have something done. If they don't have any papers, nothing, and they can just push their way through. That's pretty much me telling, coming to your house and just push my way through just because I want to. And I don't think it's right. I think they should have something, to show you, saying, hey, we got to come in and look. One of these cases, that wasn't a case, but my cousin had video proof, and her daughter was having a really bad seizure, and she asked CPS workers to wait until, she was done, but she pushed her way through. And while that little girl was having a seizure, in order to get to her little girl, she, was like, okay, and the CPS worker said, hey, you need to take that video down, we don't need this, because if you show it, then I will take your kid. And I think they should have at least something to show, hey, we're not going to take your kid just because you're going to show this. They need something done. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And now, Miss Jennifer Burks from Princeton.
Hi, how are y'all today? My name is Jennifer. I'm from Mercer County, and I've been fighting for a little over a year. November made a year to see my grandson. I raised him for a year and 8 days of his life. He's only 2 years old now. And my daughter and the boyfriend, really the boyfriend, but she's going along with it, doesn't want me to see him. I have went to court for grandparents' rights. Our court date was August the 5th. I had a nurse from case management that comes in for the first year of their life, went in and told them that they didn't think it would be in his best interest not to see me. In short version of it, he, in his closing statement, said that CPS had been in my home and my daughter's home. CPS was never in my home. When this started, they took him, CPS got a hold of me and said that it was coming in, but then they didn't come in. They went to my daughter's. I called them and asked them about it. She told me that she didn't need to come to my house because that wasn't where he was. I said, well, you don't need to see where he lived at, his environment and all of this. And she said, no. He stood on the bench and said that they was in there. I said, no, sir, they was not. My lawyer got on to me because I said that, but I couldn't sit there and not knowing that they did not come into my home. My grandson, like I said, is 2 years old. I did get to see him for the month of October. My daughter called me and told me that I couldn't tell anybody that she was calling me. She let me see him for October the 2nd to the 9th of November, and then me and the boyfriend got into it, and she told me that I couldn't see him no more. So I'm just trying to fight for rights. We should have rights to see our grandkids, especially when we help raise them. He does not even talk but a few words. I think he's so traumatized that after they took him to his papa's and the girlfriend, and unfortunately, not long after they got killed on 460. So there put another trauma in my grandson's life. And he doesn't talk that well. He just now learned a few months ago just to say mama. Outside of that, he doesn't really anything. I mean, when she was bringing him to me, he was like this, and she'd say, come on, we gotta go bye-bye. And he'd hold to me. He didn't want to go. I'd have to go and put him in the car just so that she could take him home. I don't understand. This process is not right. So I hope y'all can do something about this for us grandparents and these kids, because you can't explain to a year-old that, hey, I had to wake him up in a dead sleep and hand him off to a cop and then hand him to his mom, and he's screaming the whole time, not wanting to go because he knew his mama, he just didn't know her like that. I don't know what else to tell y'all. Please help us. Please help these grandbabies.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Miss Rebecca Ball. Miss Rebecca Ball.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? My name is Rebecca Ball. I'm from McDowell County. I'm here with a family member today because the systems that were supposed to protect our grandchildren failed them at every level. CPS, DHHR, law enforcement, the guardian ad litem program, family courts, and court-appointed therapists. Multiple children make clear disclosures of sexual abuse, and instead of investigating, the deputy assigned to the case, who admitted in court that this was his first sexual abuse case alone, and that he had no proper training, ended the investigation after 2 hours, yet we were at a forensic interview for over 5 hours.
He then misrepresented the content of the child advocacy interview. CPS never followed up. They never verified the disclosures. They never acted as a separate check on law enforcement. They stated on court record that it is their policy to assume if sexual abuse comes up during child custody cases, that it didn't happen. And that is not acceptable. That is not fair to the children that this is happening to. From there, it got worse. The family court judge, who founded Child Law Services, ordered our family to go tell the counselor that she appointed that the abuse did not happen because she said it did not happen. We refused. She issued an illegal gag order. She sealed the CAC video, which sealed the evidence, and even denied our attorneys the right to look at the CAC interview and view it. She interfered with independent forensic evaluations and stated such on court record. She went as far as intimidation out on the streets outside of the courthouse. And she refused to move the case to circuit court. Sexual abuse matters should be heard. Yet she continued to refer to the case as a sexual abuse matter, acting outside of her scope of authority. These wrongs resulted in the filing of an appeal with the West Virginia Intermediate Court of Appeals. It was a favorable appeal for our family. And this led to another judge presiding over the case. The second judge admitted on record that she should not be on this case, yet she refused to step aside or follow the mandate. She refused. She said she wasn't doing it. Of the West Virginia Intermediate Court of Appeals, she ignored evidence. She refused to follow review of the past rulings and reduced the mother's time without cause in what appears to be a retaliatory action. This led to the filing of a second appeal. This appeal came back in our favor also, but as of yet, nothing has been done to uphold either ruling. The very system that should protect our children is standing in the way of it. It's not just CPS. This is a group of people that are working together to do this. And that is not only unethical, it is dangerous for the children and for the families that are involved. This is not one bad actor, it is a structure. And when that structure decides a narrative, every connected agency follows it, no matter what the evidence says. And at the center of all of this is a structural conflict of interest that ties child law, West Virginia CAN, which is the West Virginia Child Advocacy Network, CPS, the Guardian Ad Litem program, and the court-appointed therapist into a closed system. These organizations are intertwined all across the state of West Virginia and now moving into other states. Judges help create them. Guardian ad litems are trained through them. CPS relies on them, and child advocacy centers are certified through West Virginia CAN, which operates alongside these same entities. And then those same judges preside over the cases that involve the very agencies and organizations they helped establish. This is not independence. This is a system without any oversight. We are asking you for oversight, for transparency, and for accountability. We need to end the conflicts of interest and end the court control counseling, end the guardian ad litems that are tied to CPS, and an end to financial incentives for removing children from safe families. Please don't let another child slip through the cracks.
That's right. Accountability, baby.
Please don't allow another family to endure this nightmare. We are asking you, our lawmakers, to step in. We need oversight and we need accountability. And we need judges to be held accountable. You know? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a copy of a short summary that I did with the details of our case.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, we have Miss Brenda Bonnet from Arthurdale, West Virginia. I believe that's Preston County. And I want to make sure that whoever wrote down where they're from, I want to make sure I get a shout out because it shows that people from around the state have come here today for a central mission. And that is phenomenal to see all of you from all different parts of our wonderful state here today for a central cause. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm here today to speak as an advocate for Ashley Deal, who is a 38-year-old parent with disabilities. She's had a traumatic brain injury since 1999 when she was diagnosed with medulloblastoma in the cerebellum area of the brain, which controls her movement, balance, and muscle coordination. The treatment was to remove a cancerous tumor and treat her with chemotherapy and radiation. She's been diagnosed as mildly disabled. She has made progress in improving her disabilities by attending regular sessions for physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy. She's lived by herself and has been solely responsible for taking care of herself for the past 19 years. She is capable of cleaning her apartment, doing her laundry, cooking her meals, and doing her own shopping. The judge disagreed with that statement and said that she was incapable of taking care of her 1-year-old daughter. On April 1st of 2025, Ashley gave birth to her youngest daughter, Joyce, at WVU Hospital via C-section. Doctors claim that Ashley was not able to perform basic infant care, and the WVU medical professionals ignored the fact that she was a patient with disabilities. She was under the influence of oxycodone, which is a Schedule II substance, twilight her depression and anxiety, and she was severely sleep deprived. CPS workers attempted to conduct an interview assessment of her while she was heavily medicated. When she realized she was talking to CPS, she requested 3 or 4 times for them to leave and for them to come back and reschedule when her advocate, my daughter Jessica Bonnet, would be there. They testified in court that Ashley would not speak to them because her advocate was not there to tell her what to say. I have a list of 17 violations of CPS policies and procedures that applies to her case. Ashley's disabilities were blatantly ignored while she was in the hospital by CPS caseworkers. On April 4th, caseworkers returned to the hospital, entered her hospital room, and took her baby without letting her know that they were taking the baby. She was upset when nurses told her what CPS had done. Ashley has had a horrific experience with the legal system as far as CPS, the CPS case that she had. She was denied Joyce's medical records. She was informed on January 14th that Joyce had suffered a seizure on the 7th of January, but she wasn't informed until the following week. When she asked why she hadn't been notified before, she got no response. And she was ordered by CPS to undergo a psychological evaluation, which is not the appropriate testing to evaluate her specific TBI. The specific my mouth is dry. The specific neuropsychological evaluation is the appropriate testing for her type of TBI, which she had done at April 29th of 2025. Ashley believes that CPS had determined from the beginning to take her baby based on her disabilities and the fact that Joyce was not born addicted to drugs or alcohol. Ashley was consistently asked during the investigation if she took drugs or she drank alcohol. She has never taken any drugs other than the medication prescribed by a doctor. It's frightening how easy it was for CPS to take her baby and terminate her parental rights without any solid evidence or cause based on hearsay. Ashley is confident that she is capable of caring for Joyce with the appropriate accommodation, services, and assistive aids, which, according to ADA civil rights, CPS should have provided but didn't. Ashley is currently appealing her case to the West Virginia Supreme Court. She hopes to have the decision order overturned by the West Virginia Supreme Court or to have the case kicked back down to the Monmouth County Family Court to be reviewed. I want to thank you for letting us present Ashley's story today. And I have a copy of my notes that better explain her story. And I just wanted to pass it out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I've been getting a lot of comments from people in the back that may not be able to hear the speaker. So if you're coming up to speak, it's a loud microphone, but you got to be decently close. And I'm going to need some help from the people in the back. If you cannot hear the person who is speaking, please feel free to let them know while they're speaking to get closer to the mic and speak up a little bit. It's like I said, it's a loud mic, but you got to be a decent way close. Next up, we have Tracy Gregory from NETI.
Tell the upper rotunda to hold it down up there.
You tell them to be quiet up
The upper rotunda.
The upper rotunda.
If I may ask people to keep a respectful volume, we don't mind you guys conversating up there, but just please be respectful. We did reserve this space down here, so please and thank you. How's that? Getting louder? Ms. Tracy Gregory.
Hi, I'm Tracy Gregory, and I'm from Nicholas County. I have been a foster mother for over 20 years, and I have adopted in the foster system. But CPS came into my home because my autistic son accidentally cut himself with a little tiny knife that he was using to make something out of cardboard. I did not know he had the knife, but it did not require any kind of medical attention except what we did at home. Next day at school, I called the principal to let her know that he had this little cut because I knew he would mess with me. And I said, please, if you see him, just redirect him. I'm trying to keep it because he pulls stitches out. So there's really no reason to even try to put a stitch in if he's going to pull it out. Well, a few days later, CPS comes to my door. I had run to school to pick the boys up from school. My husband was there. The police officer came to the door first and said, we need to talk to you. Nothing else. Then the CPS worker came in and spoke to my husband without asking permission. And she also went and searched my home without permission, taking videotape. My home was clean. There was no dishes dirty. There was no food in there. My refrigerator was clean. My laundry room had laundry on the floor because I was actively doing laundry at that moment. But there were toys in the boys' bedrooms and the floor. Well, after they were there for several hours, and let me know too, my sister, who is registered with foster care, was at my home during this time, and a West Virginia CSEG waiver therapist, which is a Department of Human Services program, was there because my children were having therapy in the home. They came and said that my house was dirty, but no bugs, no food, no urine, no feces, nothing. Everything was straight and tidy, and I had 2 witnesses, especially the therapist who comes to my home once a week and sees my children. He knows what our home is like, and he was there that day. He spoke to the CPS worker as well as she spoke to my sister and anyone else, and my husband and myself. Well, after they were there probably 2 hours. The next thing I hear, we're gonna take your children because your house is deplorable. And we need to redefine that word, deplorable, because judges use it for a toy. The pictures that they submitted in court, they had taken a picture from the doorway of the bedroom, but the picture I saw in court was of the toys blown up so big that that's all you saw was a pile of toys. No beds, no closet door, no windows. So how can that be an accurate determination of whether that room was deplorable?